In the meantime, I want to go to Tom Dupree because Tom, of course, being an excellent lawyer, he's not lost on the political impact of something that has been going on in that courtroom, the hush money trial going on now for the better part of, what, 20 days or so. We know already, Tom, that Michael Cohen is going to be back on the stand being cross-examined. We also know that the judge wants to wrap this up, I think, as early as Tuesday. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think this is going to wrap by Tuesday. There's still a lot to go with Michael Cohen. The Trump team is going to continue cross-examining him. Then the prosecutors will have a chance to rehabilitate all the damage that the defense team inflicted on Cohen last week. Then we've got to get a defense presentation. The Trump team will have the chance to put on their case, which will be streamlined, but that could take a day or two. And then only then do you get to jury instructions and closing arguments. So although the judge does want to move this along quickly, I don't think it's very realistic to think that this is going to wrap on Tuesday.
We talked about the fact that it's had no impact on Donald Trump in the polls. He's still winning in these battleground states. That could change. But could a conviction change that? And I don't want you to weigh in the politics of that, but how likely is a conviction? We don't know what's in the mind of the jurors. We do know anecdotally that they were riveted by certainly Stormy Daniels when she was testifying. Maybe not as much, but very closely paying attention to Michael Cohen, less so to accountants and numbers guys. And since I'm kind of a numbers guy, that kind of offended me. But leaving that aside, what are we to make of that?
What I make of this, Neil, is that over the course of this trial, in my opinion, the likelihood of conviction has dropped. I think that the district attorney came into this case thinking that they would be able to prove these charges through ways other than Michael Cohen's testimony. But as it's turned out, their case relies pretty much exclusively or in large part on Michael Cohen. And the Trump team, I thought, delivered a devastating cross-examination last week. And so for that reason, I think that the odds are fairly high that there's going to be at least one juror that concludes the prosecution has not proven its case under the highest standard known in American law, beyond a reasonable doubt.
What if the defense, no doubt, tries to go to the judge again and said, all right, you can't bring this to the jury? What do you think the odds are of that?
My view, Neil, is the odds of that are low, that the judge is not going to send this case to the jury. I think the defense team will make that request, but my sense, based on the way this judge has approached this case, based on his rulings in the past, I would be very surprised if he refuses to send this case to a jury. I think he's going to say, let's let the jury make the call. And if after the jury renders a verdict, he thinks that there wasn't enough evidence to support the conviction, the judge could throw it out at that point. But I don't see him taking this case away from the jury based on the way he's ruled previously.
Can I go to a couple of different legal cases involving Hunter Biden? There are two, I guess. He wants both postponed. I know there's a lot of criticism out of Democrats, prominent Democrats, who are saying this delay strategy was ridiculous on the part of Donald Trump. But maybe when Hunter Biden needs it, he'll entertain it. But where does that one stand?
I don't think there's any way Hunter Biden is going to avoid these two imminent trials. He is going to be spending the month of June at least in court defending himself, first in Delaware, then in California. It doesn't surprise me that they threw these Hail Mary passes trying to get these judges to throw these charges out before trial, but I didn't think there was much likelihood of them getting it granted. And what we have seen is that both of these judges are going to keep these trials on track. So I think it is a virtual certainty that both of these prosecutions are going to move ahead with trials in June.
All right, now back to Donald Trump, if you don't mind. I mean, the way I see it right now, all these other trials, the documents case, the January 6th thing, what's going on in Atlanta, what's going to happen to Fani Willis, whether she'll be on this, not on this, those aren't going to materialize before the election, as I see it. So the only case that looks to be adjudicated one way or the other is what's going on with this hush money case. And so far, no impact on Donald Trump poll-wise. And you just stated it as a smart lawyer, you think the odds of the conviction are low. So he could be dodging a lot of bullets with future bullets delayed past an election that he just could win.
I think that's exactly right. Look, when this whole litigation process started, 4 different cases, I think a lot of the conventional wisdom was that these January 6 cases or the documents case would move ahead first. People thought maybe the Georgia case would move ahead first. But what we've seen in large part through strategic misjudgments by the prosecutors, by Fani Willis, by Jack Smith, those cases have now been delayed for various reasons. And I don't think there is pretty much any chance that any of those 3 cases is going to go to trial trial before November. And of course, if former President Trump wins the election in November, that is the ultimate game changer. Those three cases, or at least two of those three cases, the federal ones, will go away the day that he is inaugurated.
Wow. This other attempt at removing the gag order against him, I think that's being taken up with another appeals court. I don't know the order of the courts. I'm an idiot when it comes to that. I'm wondering, though, Tom, whether it doesn't matter now. It's so late in the process. Just move on.
You know, I think there's some truth to that. I think once this trial ends, I think his challenges to the gag order in large part become moot, meaning there's no real live dispute here because the trial is over. And look, that said, it doesn't surprise me that Trump is battling this all the way. The legal defense team has taken a very aggressive approach to challenging the gag order. They've challenged it in the lower appellate courts. They are now trying to take it to New York's highest court. I'm not sure they have a huge likelihood of success here. My guess is that New York's highest court is going to affirm the scope of the gag order, but it doesn't surprise me that they're pushing back hard on this. Obviously, the gag order is restricting his speech substantially, and they have a legal right to pursue those appeals.
You know why I know you're brilliant? Man, you have a lot of books behind you. I can only assume. At a minimum, you're extremely well-read. Tom, I always learn a lot, in all seriousness. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.